Welcome back to our channel, and for any new viewers, hello and welcome. Hope you are all doing well. In this part of our restoration, you are going to see a time-lapse version of our entire teardown of our 2005 and 2003 Yamaha Blaster 200. Every nut and bolt. Within the next week, I'll post a full-length video for anyone who wants or needs detailed instructions on how to do it yourself, just like we are. If you have any questions, feel free to ask in the comments section, and I'll get back to you as soon as possible. We really hope you enjoy our restoration project. Please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more great content. Now, let's get into this teardown of our bikes. And we jumped right in. We decided to start at the front with the bumper, work our way up to the headlight, disassemble that. Now we're unplugging everything that goes up there to the handlebars. We're going to remove everything from the handlebars first. And one thing that I'd like to note that was extremely helpful for us was we used some of those clear plastic tackle box things and put all of our small parts like bolts, nuts, washers, pins, grommets, screws, you name it. If it was small enough to fit in those boxes, we put them in there. And then we labeled on top of the box with a marker what was in each compartment. Because if you're in a situation like me where you're going to have a time gap between tear down and rebuild because you have things you got to paint, order parts, so on and so forth, you may forget where some of these bolts and parts go. Well, if you have everything boxed up and labeled, you won't have that problem. So I figured that out way at the end of my teardown, so I'd like to share that so you don't have the same issue I did and have to have everything laid out in a mess on the floor, possibly lose something. Just save yourself the trouble. Now we're taking these grips off that were actually designed for a dirt bike, but they decided to put tape on there and make them work anyway. Also, don't know why I'm wasting my time taking them off, because I bought new handlebars and grips for the rebuild, so it is what it is. Continuing to disconnect things from the harness, and as you'll see on this rectifier, I decided to use a handheld screwdriver, and I decided to use that because I want to be able to feel the head of that screw to make sure nothing's going to strip out. That's why I decided not to use anything electronic. That's just personal preference to eliminate any further damage to parts that I don't want to have to pay to replace. One thing I'd like to note about the harness is that everything is color coded, as you can see right here. It's extremely foolproof. I mean, everything is color coded and nothing is repeated, even on the plugs. It's very simple. And that is your cable for your parking brake, if you have one. That is your rear brake light sensor that has a spring and a very small pin in the bottom that connects to your brake pedal. It is a pain in the butt to get out without that swing arm out of the way because of how small that area is from the outside. So I just said forget it for now and moved on to the front. I'm going to go ahead and remove these front brake lines. You can see some damage there. I always remove the hard line first. If you have a stubby wrench, I highly recommend it for this section because it is a pain with a full length wrench with just the area that you have. Thank you. Now we can remove these soft lines. That's one 10mm bolt right there, and two on the back, one for each clamp.
Put away our problems.
Now you're gonna see us remove these lines. We had already done a brake bleed, which you'll see in the full length video. Just watch the sediment and disgustingness that comes out of these lines in the fluid. Watch this. Watch this one. Look at that. Look at the chunks and all that sediment on that rag. Now you got a retaining clip right there, and that comes right off. Now you have to remove those clamps so that you can pull those lines through these brackets that are on the upper A-arms. Otherwise it ain't coming off. And then you're going to just simply gently pull them out. And there you go. Now the chain, find the master link. I like to do it this way.
Put away our problems.
It makes it super simple, super quick. Bam, chain's off. Now we're going to remove the chain guide. That chain is no good because it was being eat up by where a chain roller was supposed to be and was not. Now we're going to remove these front calipers, hubs, brake guards, spindles, A-arms, shocks, everything. Mark them left and right if you want, just for quick visual, know which one to grab. Now we're going to go into removing your hubs. I'm going to be using a
We just need
soft,
to forget about everything.
dead blow mallet,
Put away our problems.
so that way nothing gets damaged
Get along with each
when I
other.
hit it. And these things are really corroded on there pretty bad. And one thing I do want to note is that you don't want to hit that rotor. I know it may look like I am, but I'm actually hitting the back side of the hub where the rotor mounts to it. So that way I don't warp my rotor or damage it and have to buy another one. Now this one right here took a lot of WD-40 and a lot of banging strategically, so I didn't damage anything, but it was extremely corroded on there. Just watch.
Each other.
Look at this. Look at that. Chalk like a chalkboard. So corroded. Now we're going to remove your brake guards. Now we're going to work on removing our spindles. There's a castle nut on the bottom, one on the top, and then your radius rods that connect to it as well. You're going to need a tie rod puller, which is this tool there. I do not recommend using a hammer to smack them out because you could damage the threads or the end of the bolt itself, and you're going to have to replace those tie rod ends or your A-arms. Just save yourself the trouble, buy yourself that tool for 15-20 bucks. And if you're not careful and paying attention with the tool, you can still damage these as well if it slips off and hits those threads, or you squish the end of the bolt because you're putting too much pressure too fast. So just be mindful and pay attention when you're using this tool. And there it is, pops right out. You have to do it on the steering column as well. I marked them just for precautionary measures. It's not necessity. Move the shocks. Now your upper A-arm right there is just a clamp style, so that is extremely simple to get on and off. But you're still going to need that tie rod puller for your lower A-arm to get the spindle off. Also note that you're going to need a good amount of Carter pins when you reinstall everything on the rebuild. Different sizes, lengths. I would recommend just getting the whole kit of them. There's your spindle. There's your second spindle. Moving your A-arms, super simple. Upper is 1 bolt, lower is 2 bolts. Both sides. No fresh grease, that is all very old, nasty grease. Nasty. Now we're going to remove your steering column. That is a lock washer of sorts. If you just take that chisel and knock it flat, then you can back the bolts out. Undo your bolt on the bottom with your washers. Put your steering column right out. Check the wear on it. Now we're moving on to the back hubs, which actually had some grease in them, which I was surprised. Rear rotor, rear sprocket. Now that one came out good. That one came out. That one came out. That one did not. If you'd like to see how we got it out, check out our TikTok for that video. And You see, we tried the vice grip trick. It just didn't have enough bolt head to stay on there. Nope, we got it off. Now on the sprocket, you have the similar lock washer type deal as you did on that front steering column. It goes to 2 bolts, and there's 3 of them. Just knock them flat with the chisel. And I do recommend, once you get them off, if you're going to reuse them, to take them to a flat surface, hard flat surface, and take a nice hammer and smack them flat. Now we're going to put that in our parts washer and just let it soak.
So, do you know anything about techno?
Now we're going to work on removing the axle and the carrier. Which along with that comes your adjusters. If you want to see how we got the axle out of the carrier, check out our TikTok for that as well. Here we are removing the rear shock.
So, do you know anything?
Now we're removing the swing arm, and this bolt was pretty tight in there, but that's also because the swing arm was never maintenance properly either.
Techno.
There's your swing arm. Now we're removing the first motor, which is a big moment for us, something we all had looked forward to from the beginning. Ta-da! One completely tore down now. And here's the second bike. We're tearing it down, an overhead view, nothing up close because we did all that in the first video. We just wanted y'all to see the tear down of the second video. Me and my boys getting it done as quickly as possible. One thing I'd like to say is that this motor, his left case is damaged, as well as the cover is missing. The first motor has really good looking cases, all the covers, everything that should be there. This motor here has a brand new BP racing piston in it and other internals that were part of the reason I purchased it. So thinking that I could take this motor and the first motor, have them looked at by someone, see if I can put the 2 motors together to make one good motor, and then obviously have some extra parts left over for future when and if something gets damaged. Another big moment, removing the second motor, because this completes the full teardown of both bikes. And there it is, money in the bank. As I stated earlier in this video, chaos. Look at all that. 2 full bikes, plus some, all in here together. This is why organization is key. And that concludes our teardowns. In the next section, it will be cleaning, prepping parts for paint. I promise not to make it too long because, let's be honest, it's nothing fun, it's boring. So, please do not forget to like, share, and subscribe. Stay tuned for the next one. We appreciate you watching. See you next time.